In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, today's daily random talk is on the state or evolution of British moral values from Edward VII to Charles III. I choose this timeline because it's also the timeline of the Queen Consort of Charles III, Camilla, to her great grandmother, Anne Campbell, who was the mistress of Edward VII. To put it into brief perspective, Edward VII came on the British throne in the year 1902 after the death of his mother's long reign, the Lady Queen Victoria, which was a highly respected era and brought in the Edwardian age, which was known for its supposedly loose morals, however, not as loose as the current state of British morals. Edward VII and his Marlborough set during the Victorian age was a scandalous group of people, of course, kings and aristocrats and nobility kept mistresses from time immemorial, but this went to a different height. This age, it was also the age of the print, the newspapers came in, and among the mistresses of Edward VII, who his much loved Queen Alexandra of Denmark, had to endure both as Princess of Wales and as Queen. The last one was a lady known as Anne Campbell, who happens to be the great grandmother of the current Queen Consort, Camilla. What really happened was, after several mistresses and whatnot, in his twilight, in the last 12-13 years of his life, she became his mistress. She was quiet. However, at the time she was his mistress, she was married to a second son of Earl, who was a soldier, initially at least, and she lifted adultery to a different height of being a family enterprise. As her biographer, in one of her biography's notes, that it was a family enterprise where the husband knew about the wife's infidelity, and it was a way of improving the financial status of the family, because he, being a second son of a noble, did not have money of his own, and she also being a daughter of a Scottish baronet, baronet did not have a fortune of her own. So immediately after her wedding, she got into the business of taking on lovers, which included at one time a prominent British banker, and sometimes assumed the elder daughter of the couple is a child of that banker. Then, at about the age of 29, she got the eye of the then Prince of Wales in about 1889 or 1889, somewhere there. And he started his relationship with her while she was married to her husband, and her husband also knew, and he turned a blind eye to it. She held her afternoon saloons and drawing rooms, and she genuinely made the king happy. There might have been some rumor that the younger daughter could have been Sonia, who is the grandmother of the current Queen Consort. Camilla might have been, we don't know, unless genetic DNA tests prove the authenticity of the rumor, which is now available. Before it was not available then, because it was during the time she was born. She was married to her husband and also having an affair with the king. And the husband it was a family enterprise. When the king would come, he would make himself disappear, and he would spend the time, and she would follow him with. She would also accompany him in this the great country house he is. When in England, when he went on his French holiday in the Riviera, she also would be with him. It was like an open affair, of course. It wronged the Queen Alexandra of Denmark a lot, but she endured. That was her quality. She had, and even on the deathbed, she called for the mistress to come. It is Lady Anne Campbell. For 10 minutes until she broke down and she had to be carried out of Buckingham Palace. So, however, she stood by the king always and endured his infidelity without causing a scandal. Those were the morals. And then came the reign of George, his son, George V, who was married to Queen Mary of Teck. He was a more austere and morally upright age. Being after 1910, when his father died, and he took over the throne. In just a few years, 4 years time, the First World War would break out, and he had to endure it. And one of the lasting things he did was to change his family's German surname, Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, to the House of Windsor. One thing which may be like a blemish, according to me, in my point of view, is that the Soviet Revolution took place, and as we know, Tsar Nicholas II was the grandson of Queen Victoria also, and they are related to the British Crown, and he could, actually they had even agreed, I believe, that they would send a frigate to pick the Russian royal family out. However, due to certain influences about that, the worry that whether he would still remain king if he brings another exiled autocrat into UK. So he told the Prime Minister to renegade on that commitment to bring the family of Tsar Nicholas, who had been exiled in what do you call in an area where they were waiting for a British frigate to come and pick them up, a naval ship, and which actually, once they knew the British were not coming to pick them up, the incoming Bolsheviks, the communists, decided to shoot the whole entire family of Tsar Nicholas II, including his wife and his children. It was something what do you call a morally upright person would not have done to his cousin. It was said just so that he can survive in the throne. Kaiser William was also his cousin, but there was another issue, totally different issue. Russia was in the First World War, fighting together with the allied to the British and the French team against the Germans. The Germans, Kaiser Wilhelm, although his cousin was would have been a no completely, because the leader was against the British and they fought the First World War in spite of them being cousins. So we understand. Then in 1936, George V would pass away, and his son, who was a playboy, and the arch playboy with mistresses, Edward VIII. His last mistress was Wallis Simpson. And he abdicated the throne on the pushing of Parliament, which said that, and the Church of England, of which he was the supreme head, they said they will not accept not a divorced king, but a king marrying American divorcee who was twice divorced and her husband was living at that time. So Edward the Eighth had to abdicate the throne and he became the Duke of Windsor. It's a shame that a person for his love was forced to abdicate. Then in the throne who followed him was George VI, his brother, who took the Britain through the Second World War and was the father of the beloved Queen Elizabeth II. His reign was fairly good and he was loyal to his wife and everything was, so we can say, okay. In the Second World War, he rallied British troops and had the courage to remain in London. However, after him, he had a short reign, and his daughter Elizabeth was crowned queen at the age of 26 in 1952. Her reign was relatively okay. However, it had too many breaches of hypocrisy, in that the first crisis was her sister Margaret, who wanted to marry Group Captain Peter Townsend, the Royal Equity, who was a divorcee, and they, I believe, told her that she could not, without giving up her rights to the throne and the civil list, salary and what not, if she married the group captain Peter Townsend, because he was a divorcee and his wife was still living, and her sister was the head of the Church of England. However, it should be understood historically how did the kings, sovereigns, monarchs of the United Kingdom become heads of the Church of England. Henry VIII, King Henry VIII, when he wanted to divorce his first wife, he sought the Pope's permission, and papal permission was denied. So he broke away from the church and called himself the supreme head of the Church of England, and he married Queen Anne, and England became from a Catholic country to a Protestant country, and he married someone while his first wife was alive. So why the hypocrisy in the time of Princess Margaret, that this one's wife was alive, Group Captain Peter Townsend, who was, I believe, the first love, possibly the only real love of Princess Margaret. The moral values. She gave up a radio announcement or television announcements saying she broke up the relationship, and so for the sake of the crown. Then later on, Princess Margaret would marry the photographer Louis Armstrong or something, and she would also divorce him. She was sad. However, the Queen's son, Charles, was born in 1948, who has now become King Charles III. When he was Prince of Wales in 1981, he had a fairy tale wedding to a much beloved Princess of Wales, Lady Diana Spencer. She was much loved not only in England but all over the Commonwealth and the wider world also, for her charitable work and other issues, other causes which she represented. However, when he was married to Lady Diana, he started an affair which actually was there before he had met Lady Diana, with Camilla Parker Bowles, known at that time, current Queen Consort, who at that time was married, and she had been twice been married also. And she was actually, at the time when he was running an affair with her, a tape was recorded by an amateur, telephone hacker. Today we would call him a telephone hacker, of a tape by a conversation where he's at the time he was also married, and Camilla was also married to another man, that he wanted to be reincarnated as the tampon of Camilla Parker Bowles at that time, which is one of the most shameful things. It is a tampon is is a female hygiene product used by females to improve their mobility during times of the menstrual cycle. and it's a very good invention. However, for a Prince of Wales who is married to another lady, and the woman who is talking to is also married to another man, means they had an adulterous relationship of double adultery. The then Prince of Wales, current King Charles III, was committing adultery while he was married to Lady Diana, and Camilla Parker Bowles, known at that time, was also committing adultery when she was married to another man. The tapes contents were printed in newspapers and publicized in the media, and nothing came out of it really, because it did not affect. And the people loved the media, they bought the newspapers, and they enjoyed all the scandalous things which were written by the various media outlets. So basically, it shows British moral values had collapsed right from the public to Parliament, because it was Parliament which had forced the abdication of Edward the Eighth, because he wanted to marry American divorcee. Now Parliament could not stop the ascension to the throne of Charles, become King Charles III, because for them it has become British society, it has become normal, adultery and fornication. The biblical command, thou shalt not fornicate, thou shalt not commit adultery, is all bygones, just because the law allows you to have premarital relationships and premarital sex. So British moral values have collapsed completely today. Today it's the age of the Tampunget king, because maybe people also want to be, majority of the people would want to be reincarnated as tampoons of their female partners. Maybe it might become normal for people to say, I want to be your tampon. It might be a phrase in British society now. It's a total collapse of British moral values. Here it was a Queen Alexandrine who held the dignity of the British society. Parliament played its role when a king, even if he was already crowned a king, wanted to do something against British moral values. They prevented Edward VIII to do it. They also prevented Margaret to marry a divorced man when his wife was alive. But here it was the crown prince himself had committed adultery. He ended up marrying, and without giving up his place in the line of succession. Parliament should have and stopped him from ascending to the throne and abdicate in favor of his son William, but it did nothing of that sort, because for Parliament and British society, British public, it's all now normal, because British society, British moral values have collapsed to a low unseen ever in history. Let us pray for the people of the United Kingdom and Britain, that they find the moral compass and take as one of the great Christian kingdoms, where the monarch is also the head of the Church of England, upholds the law given by God Himself, that thou shalt not fornicate in the Ten Commandments, which is there in the Christian Bible also. Thank you for listening.